Good evening everyone. If you don't know, you should know. My name is Rameez Khan and I am a filmmaker and a film critic, and yes, I know. Before you say it, trust me, I know. I know I look like a douche with this beard, but the real question is, on a scale level of asshole to Hitler or maybe Donald Trump, how bad does this beard look? So let me know in the comments below. Anyway people, welcome to Double Feature. What is Double Feature? Double Feature is my series to give back. I do want to give back more later on by doing contests and giveaways, but I cannot do those right now because I am unemployed. So this is a way of me giving back. This is going to be a series where your video requests of movies that you want me to review are going to be reviewed on this segment. I'm honored that you people enjoy my opinions on movies, and I'm even more honored that you people request for movies for me to review. Let's just start with The Driver of 1978. It stars Ryan O'Neal and Bruce Dern. Ryan O'Neal plays a man with no name. He's just known as The Driver. His impeccable skill of escaping scot-free has made him show up on the blip of another man with no name, the detective, played by Bruce Dern, one of my favorite characters, one of the best character of this movie actually. There are no names in this film, people, just characters. The film is directed by Walter Hill, and the only other film I've seen by him is this. I needed a bullet to the head after watching Bullet to the Head. Now the characters in this film are really plain. Do you know why? Because the characters are really singular. All they are their goals. Luckily enough, the plotline is very, very cool. After the first chase of the film, the detective tracks down the driver and tells him, "I'm gonna take you down." Plus, Bruce Dern and Ryan O'Neal have real chemistry on screen. They admire each other, but they know that they're on separate sides of the law. Very reminiscent, or actually, Heat was really reminiscent of this film if you think about it. I really like the Bruce Dern character. This guy's job is his life. Hey, wait a minute. This is starting to sound a lot like a Michael Mann movie. Actually, it could be mistaken for a Michael Mann movie as well. The cinematography, the characters, everything about this film screams Michael Mann. But yeah, Bruce Dern is a bit more interesting than Ryan O'Neal, and I believe that's done on purpose to give Ryan O'Neal the closeted psychopath vibe. But man, living and watching the action films of today really makes me appreciate the action films of the past. No, none of that shaky cam BS, a real feeling of mood and tension in the air. That's what so many action movies lack nowadays, mood. This film's mood is set from the very beginning. It tells you what it is and it doesn't change. It is a slow-paced action thriller. And it kind of feels like one, but it doesn't feel like one as well, thanks to the great direction and impeccable performances by both actors in our roles. Both Dern and O'Neal, even though they have singular and narrow characteristics, they play those characteristics very strongly. But what is a car movie without action? What would the Fast and the Furious movies be without the cars? The action in this film is rather fantastic. I don't know if it holds up when we talk about the editing. That is my only gripe with every car chase in this film. They run a bit too long, especially the opening sequence. However, they are all impeccably staged and they work towards the narrative. They work for the narrative rather than against it. There's a great gotcha scene when it comes to the driver and his rules on guns, and then there's a great parking lot sequence as well. Overall, this is a very good film and it has a very strong grasp on tone. The main character is a bit bleh, but he is memorable enough. One thing I loved about Ryan O'Neal's performance is his nervous twitch, sort of, he had. Whenever he was asked a question, he would just stare at the person quietly and then just walk away, and that really sold the badassness of that character, the driver. He is a bit empty, but there is feeling in him, and Bruce Dern makes for a fantastic foil. He is the best character of this film. The car chases are fantastic as well, but the sound effects are a bit dated, like the editing. Overall, still a fun film to watch, and a film you should watch. I'm giving this film a final score of 3.5 out of 5. Now, let's move on to Drive. Drive is a film directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. He also came out with a new film called The Neon Demon, which I have yet to see because they don't play that type of stuff over here, sadly. And it stars another man named Ryan. The driver had Ryan O'Neal, we have Ryan Gosling. But it also has a brilliant supporting cast with Bryan Cranston, Albert Brooks, who is sort of miscast, and a brilliant Ron Perlman. Now, at a glance, this film is basically a remake of The Driver, but that's looking at it at a glance. Our main character has no name. He has the same rules as the driver in The Driver, and the cinematography is very similar as well, and to an extent so is the soundtrack. But when you watch the film, you learn, holy shit, this is way more about the driver and his story and his past and his feelings. Drive actually gave Ryan Gosling's character, also known as the driver, some of the same personality traits. However, they gave him more character as well. He actually has a day job. He's a stunt driver. He actually has a social interaction with other people. One of his best friends is an extremely charismatic Bryan Cranston. The cool thing about this film is its subtlety when it comes to aesthetic. The camera work is fantastic because the camera work knows what it is and it doesn't feel out of place. The tripod is always locked down. The camera doesn't even have insane whip pans and crash zooms. It's all very stationary and it doesn't feel out of place because this film is sort of delving into the psyche of this main character who is the driver. And you figure out that this character is kind of crazy near the end of the film, very similar to what they did in Taxi Driver. The cinematography, again, is very reminiscent of Michael Mann films. Literally each shot oozes atmosphere. It reminds me of Collateral a lot. And add to the cinematography is the incredible soundtrack. I would say, along with Guardians of the Galaxy, this is up there when we talk about best soundtracks of all time. Now let's talk about when I saw the film in 2011. I'm not gonna lie, when I saw the film I was a bit underwhelmed. And it's not because it was the movie's fault. The movie is about underplaying and subtlety. All our characters' goals are implied in this film. They are never spoken. The film has a lot of sequences and shots where people are staring at each other, they look at each other, they gaze at each other, very reminiscent of Scarface. Now the problem is, and again, this was my fault for doing this, that I ended up seeing Drive after one of my favorite films of all time of 2011 called Warrior, a film which is not about subtlety at all. That film is all about emotion, tons of emotion, which Drive does lack. Drive does feel a bit sterile when we're talking about emotion. It's about underacting, but selling underacting as acting as well. Now in Warrior, where the acting and the emotions are all dialed to 11, it kind of made it unfair for me as a viewer to watch Drive right after Warrior. And when I rewatched this film with an objective mind, some of the things still stuck out. Some of the things I really like still stuck out, but some of the negatives remained as well. Albert Brooks, I don't get this. I mean, I don't understand why people thought this man's performance was excellent. He just doesn't fit. Ron Perlman should have been the bad guy in this film, not Albert Brooks. Apart from his voice, he has nothing intimidating about him. He's a short, pudgy man. I don't know why anyone would be intimidated by him. His reach, maybe, but not him. However, he gets an incredible introduction, though. I love when they meet up together, the driver and Albert Brooks. Ryan Gosling walks up to him, and it's a low angle, and Albert Brooks is extending his hand to shake it, and Ryan Gosling's taking off his gloves and telling Albert Brooks that my hands are a bit dirty. Awkward pause. Albert Brooks goes, "So are mine." That's really good dialogue. It's short, sweet dialogue which quickly gets the point across. That's the cool part of this film, along with the driver. It has equal amount of subtlety, straightforwardness, and action. I hope straightforwardness is a word. The one thing I can say about Nicholas Winding Refn, what he achieved with Drive was really special, was the balance between art and corporate art. And Drive has a really good balance of that. If I can give you an example to get my point across, let's say The Dark Knight is art. Batman v Superman is corporate art. I am still giving Drive the same score as The Driver, 3.5 out of 5. It is a bit too similar, and it is a little bit too pretentious, but that doesn't take away the fact that it is a very good film. So which one would I recommend? Well, both, obviously. Drive has better aesthetic, the cinematography is stunning because obviously it was made 40 years later. The Driver has a better commentary on the cops versus robbers theme and a much better antagonist in Bruce Dern. But they're still unique car movies. If you're not in the mood of watching Fast and the Furious 20, go see The Driver and Drive. My name is Rameez Khan. Thank you for watching this very first episode of Double Feature. It really means a lot, people. Consider hitting that free subscribe button if you enjoyed this video, and share this video if you enjoyed my thoughts on Drive and The Driver. Thank you so much for watching, people. Until next time, remember to love yourselves.